The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max 205 Live. And now, here are your hosts, Harry Broadhurst and Brandon Biskobing. Well, thank you, Mr. Announcer Guy. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's right. We get personalized introductions. Suck it, Sean. Not bitter at all, Brandon. Why do you ask? It's okay. 205 Live is the redheaded stepchild of the W2M network. I understand. Somebody has to review it. It might as well be us.
And we're gonna be part of another redheaded stepchild of W2M in a little pretty soon.
That reminds me, I got to talk to Ketza and see if he's in for that. Because me and Ketza doing women's wrestling has kind of been our thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk to PK and see if he's down for joining us for the SmackDown, for the Mae Young Classic 2 reviews. Oh, hi everybody, as we are live to the W2M Network with the Wrestling to the Max 205 Live review. I am your host. My name is Harry Broadhurst. He is Brandon Biskobing. This is 205 Live for August 14th, 2018. Brandon, it's almost 1 a.m. What do you say we get to this so that way both of us can get some sleep?
Let's do it.
All right, our opening contest, scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
Is actually a promo leading into the contest, as Lio Rush gets microphone time in order to state his piece about having to face off against Akira Tozawa once again. He points out that Akira Tozawa at one point was one of the best in the world, but as of right now, he is the best in the world. He's Mr. Lio 5 Live. Okay, that was corny.
But hilarious at the same time.
And tonight, Tozawa feels the rush. Therefore, our opening contest, scheduled for one fall.
One fall!
Officially. It's Lio Rush and Akira Tozawa in a rematch from 3 weeks ago. What's the old line here, Brandon? Second verse, same as the first?
Yeah, which honestly is kind of surprising.
A little bit more competitive this time. The match goes a little bit longer than the original match did, but the end result is still the same as Lio Rush puts down Akira Tozawa with the final hour, his frog splash off of the top rope.
I think
7 minutes and 50.
I think they called it the midnight hour.
Midnight, final, up, down, down. Does it really make a difference?
I guess not.
Because the midnight hour is the New Day's finish.
Oh, okay, you're right. Never mind. You're right.
I would be calling it Rush Hour, but that's me. Anyway, it spells curtains for Akira Tozawa at 7:55. More competitive than the first match, but again, as I stated earlier, second verse, same as the first, as Lio picks up the win here and now moves to 5-0 here on 205 Live.
Yeah, kind of, like I said before, kind of surprised that Lio actually got the win here. I was expecting Tozawa to get a win to set up a, best 2 out of 3 match, in terms of the series. But, they're obviously pushing Lio pretty hard here. Especially if Cedric wins the title retains the title rather at SummerSlam, I could totally see Lio being the new number 1 contender.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I could definitely see that as an option. I don't think it's going to happen because we did our predictions for the match a little bit earlier on when we did the SmackDown Live review, available on the W2M Net and many of the same places where you would be listening to this episode: iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbean, CastBox. Hey, Brandon, guess what?
Spotify is here.
And Glacier is coming. That'll never not be funny, will it?
No, it won't.
Awesome. We're going to keep that bit then, even if Glacier doesn't do it for us. Now, if he does it for us, do we have him say Glacier is coming? Or do we have him say Glacier is here?
I think we have him say Spotify is here. It would be hilarious.
That's a fair point, actually. I didn't think about that. All right, I'm officially deputizing Jason Teasley to make this happen if I can't make it to that show. All right, moving on. We see Drew Gulak and Brian Kendrick training with Jack Gallagher to get him ready for our main event on the evening. Gallagher takes on Cedric Alexander. We then get highlights of last week's match between Hideo Itami and Mustafa Ali. GMDM gives us the update that apparently Ali is suffering from a case of exhaustion, not a concussion angle, which makes me a little bit happier, and that they will be keeping him off of television because of it. Are you surprised that they didn't go the concussion route?
Honestly, yes. Especially if they're going to be keeping it off TV, because that would be a way to make it make sense that they're keeping him off TV because he has a concussion, and kind of trying to, on a PR level bring to the forefront that, hey, we're actually paying attention to concussions now, and if you get a concussion, you're off TV for a while. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, so be it. We'll see where they go with this.
Our next contest. Okay, sure. Our next, steering to the skid. Our next contest, scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
Is Hideo Itami taking on, does it really matter? Do you remember the guy's name?
No. I was just about to ask you if in your notes if you had his name. Because you're always the one to have, you find it on the review and you're like, oh, this guy, I remember him, and he's an indie guy. And yeah.
No, I have no idea what indie guy he is because he did not look familiar. But you know what is familiar, Brandon?
Not a Tommy's finisher, that's for sure.
Hold on. I smell something.
Would that be squash you smell?
That would be squash I smell. As Jabaruski gets in next to nothing before Itami puts him away via referee stoppage after a basement dropkick in the corner. He did hit his actual finish post-match, so I guess there's that.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about that, but fair enough. You are correct.
Your thoughts on the squashity?
I'm okay with it to give Itami some more momentum, and also I kind of like, I know certain people get annoyed at it, they got annoyed at it when Lesnar did it, and yeah. But if done correctly, referee stoppages can actually work in wrestling as a way to really show someone's dominance.
Not to mention, especially if you're facing some local jamuck.
Yes.
It's not like it's not like the nameless, faceless dude that got ref stopped here is going to make any kind of a difference going into the future here, you know?
Unless you're James Ellsworth.
Yeah, this was an opportunity to put over Itami's viciousness.
Yes.
So, why not just go with it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that takes us into our main event, but not before we get a promo from Cedric Alexander talking about the match that he is coming up with Drew Gulak at SummerSlam. In addition, we also find out the two marquee matches for next week's episode of 205 Live, as Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy take on the Loser House Party in a Tornado Tag Team match.
Huzzah, you actually say it properly this time.
Did you see the dirty look that Nigel gave Vic Joseph when he corrected him?
No, I didn't.
It's worth it going back just for that. Because the look on Nigel's face when Vic Joseph says it's the Lucha House Party is hilarious.
I need to go back and watch this now.
You remember the old William Regal sucking on a lemon face?
Yeah.
That's basically the look that Nigel gave Joseph.
Oh, God.
It was fantastic. Anyway, the other match announced for next week as well is Noam Dar TJP3.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit less than interested in TJ Perkins nowadays, but I'm interested to see where they're going to go with babyface Noam Dar, just because it's still a weird concept for me.
Yeah, it really is. Especially because we can't hear Alicia Fox.
I do miss Alicia Fox. That's the only part of her being on 205 Live that I miss.
Yeah.
I don't miss her being on the show.
Oh, no, absolutely not, but...
Keep her away from the show.
That was the only thing that really made Noam Dar relevant at the time, though, was him saying, Alicia Fox.
Fox. So are you saying we don't give a Fox?
Pretty much.
Noted. Our main event, scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
Is Cedric Alexander. I popped myself with that. Taking on Jack Gallagher, non-title here. 14 minutes and 4 seconds of them beating the dog snot out of each other. The standing Spanish fly, the C4 as Paul Burchill used to call it, provides the finish as Alexander gets the pin. Post-match, an attempted beatdown by Kendrick is thwarted. Another attempted beatdown by Gallagher is thwarted. Kendrick eats the lumbar check. And then Drew Gulak sneaks in and puts Cedric into the gulag, choking him out as we go off the air for this week's episode. What were your thoughts on the main event? And then we'll talk about the beatdown afterwards.
The main event, while it could have been a little bit better because obviously these two can put on great matches, it was still a solid main event for 205. And then the end, it kind of kept Cedric still looking strong because he took out both the first two attacks, but then he couldn't stop the last one. So it gives Gulak some momentum going into the pay-per-view as well. So it kind of keeps things at even, and we'll see where they go from here on Sunday at SummerSlam.
How about the post-match beatdown?
Well, I just mentioned the post-match beatdown.
Oh, with it making Alexander looking strong and fighting off the other two members
Exactly.
getting caught by Gulak. Okay,
exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cedric has a pair of really good matches against Kendrick and Gallagher. The Gallagher match actually comes off as more of a surprise to me because we haven't seen this Gallagher in the ring in a very long time. And it was nice to once again get a sampling of what the gentleman's capable of when he's on. Alexander doesn't miss a step here. He continues to be the best in-ring provider on 205 Live, if not necessarily the best character. I still give that honor to Drew Gulak right now.
But even outside of Gulak, Gallagher is still a very good character as well.
But he's now more of Gulak's minion rather than his own person.
Yes.
That being said, though, for as much as I've enjoyed the Age of Alexander on 205 Live, I think Gulak's time has come. I think that this will be an opportunity to work on some new baby faces at the top of the 205 Live card. Noam Dar springs to mind as somebody who could be an immediate challenger for Gulak. And you can have them have to run the gambit of Gallagher and Kendrick in order to get to Gulak, much the same way that Alexander's kind of having to do here as well.
While I would love to see Gulak win the title, I just think that they're setting up for Lio Rush to be the new number one contender, and that would mean you'd have to have a face champion, so I think Alexander retains.
Well, on behalf of myself and the former co-hostess with the mostest for SmackDown Live, we're picking Drew Gulak.
Fair enough.
Just saying. I think that officially wraps us up for this episode, Brandon. Scale of 1 to 10.
I'll give it a 7.5. Not a bad show. The Lio Rush Akira Tozawa match, while a little confused about the finish, considering you would think that they'd want to do a best 2 out of 3 series with them. I'm okay with it because it certainly makes Lio Rush look strong, and we'll see where he goes from here. The match with Itami gives him some more momentum going back, and then the ending is a way to keep Cedric Alexander looking strong going into SummerSlam, while also giving Gulak a momentum boost as well. So, all in all, a good show, but not, the best show in the world for 205.
I'm going to scale this the same way I gave SmackDown. I'm going to put it at a 7 as well. Really enjoyed the main event between Alexander and Gulak, or not Alexander and Gulak, between Alexander and Gallagher, excuse me. The setup was very well done in order to get us to Alexander and Gulak for SummerSlam. The Itami squash was what it was. I mean, I don't necessarily know that Itami needed rebuilding, but having him out there as a focal point for how vicious he was, specifically to Mustafa Ali last week, makes sense. The opener was kind of disappointing to me. And I know that I said second verse same as the first. It came off very similar to me. That for as good of wrestlers as both Lio Rush and Akira Tozawa are, there's not a whole lot of chemistry there in singles.
I'll give you that.
So overall, I'm going to go with a 7 here, and I'm going to say that it's about the same as how I felt SmackDown ended up. One word review, Brandon. What do you got?
I'll say momentum. Lio gets more momentum moving forward, I'm assuming that he's going to be put into the title picture sooner rather than later. Itami gets some momentum back by beating the Jobber, and both Cedric and Gulak are able to get some momentum going into SummerSlam and their title matches with the way they handled the matches and then the subsequent post-match beatdowns.
I'm going to say cylindrical.
Okay.
The booking isn't anything we haven't seen before, even if the results are still a pretty good show. The second verse, same as the first for Akira Tozawa and Lio Rush. Itami getting a jobber match in order to help build him up as a viable threat, even though the guy that he's feuding with is probably off television for a couple of weeks. And we've seen before the champion has to go through the challenger's lackeys, or the challenger has to go through the champion's lackeys in order to get to the title match here. So it's nothing we haven't seen before. The difference is with the cast of characters that 205 Live has, it still makes for an entertaining broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yep.
All right. I think that's going to wrap us up here, Brandon.
Yep.
I do a bunch of plugs here, but I'll just tell you to go listen to the SmackDown Live review where we plug everything, and you're probably listening to that before you listen to this anyways. You know what I will plug, Brandon?
What?
W2Mnet.com, your home for everything that you need in the worlds of sports, entertainment, video games, professional wrestling, soccer, football, and so much more. That is online at W2Mnet.com. He's Brandon Biskobing. I'm Harry Broadhurst. This was the Wrestling to the Max 205 Live review with Brandon Biskobing and your host, Harry Broadhurst. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next week with the fallout from the Cruiserweight title match between Gulak and Alexander here on the 205 Live review on the W2M Network.